The van bumped along the gravel road, tires crunching over the last stretch of civilization before the forest swallowed us whole. There were 5 of us: Jake, the trip leader and outdoor fanatic; Molly, his girlfriend; Tyler, a sarcastic but reliable guy; Jenna, my ex who I was still awkwardly close with; and Mirai. I'd agreed to the trip to get out of my own head. 2 weeks off-grid in a national forest sounded like therapy. We were headed to the Bear Rock Wilderness, deep in Oregon, off-limits for years due to fire risk. But recently, permits had reopened. Jake, always chasing the untouched, found an old fire watchtower on an outdated topographic map. The plan was to hike in, set up camp nearby, and use the tower as a base. It hadn't been listed in any current databases. That's what made it exciting. The trailhead was more overgrown than expected. When we parked, the air was heavy with pine and something else. Old damp earth like a basement. Jake was practically vibrating with excitement, pointing out markings on his printed map, lines tracing a ridge deep into the woods. For miles up, he said. Piece of cake. We shouldered our packs. Tyler cracked a joke about us being the next missing hikers on Reddit. Everyone laughed, even me, but something in my gut twisted when I looked up at the tree line. We pushed deeper into the forest. The trees thickened fast, crowding the trail until sunlight only filtered through in scattered shards. Felt like walking through green glass. The deeper we went, the quieter it got. Birdsong vanished. Even our footsteps seemed muffled by the moss-covered ground. Around an hour in, Jenna pointed out a rusted sign half buried in brush. It was once bright yellow, now flaking and unreadable. The only thing visible was the symbol, a stylized tower inside a triangle. Jake beamed. That's it. The tower trail. We pressed on. The incline steepened. At one point, the path curved alongside a steep drop, the forest floor disappearing into a tangle of ferns and deadfall far below. A single misstep could mean a long fall. Then, around a rocky bend, we saw it. Perched on a narrow ridge, the watchtower rose above the treetops like a forgotten sentinel. Its wood was weathered gray, the metal supports rusted but intact. The stairs spiraled up to a cabin surrounded by a railing. From below, it looked both majestic and wrong, like a relic that had no business surviving this long. Jake whooped and took off up the stairs. We followed Jake up, the stairs creaking under our weight. The railing was brittle with rust. When I reached the top, I was hit by the view. Endless green stretching in every direction, interrupted only by distant ridgelines. The wind was stronger up here, whistling through the cracks in the floorboards. The door to the cabin was slightly ajar. Jake pushed it open. Inside was a single room, dust-drenched and shadowy. A cot lay against one wall, a rusted stove in the corner. Papers were scattered across the floor, faded and curling. "Guys!" Molly called from the back corner. She was pointing at a logbook on a small table. This cover read, Tower 9 Log, U.S. Forestry Service. Jake flipped it open. The last entry was dated August 14, 1998. It read, Smoke to the east. Radio silent for 3 days. Starting to feel watched. Tower shaking last night. Probably wind. Probably. We looked at each other. Tyler chuckled nervously. Probably wind. That's comforting. Jake was thrilled. He pulled out his camera and began filming everything. I didn't say it out loud, but something about that logbook entry made my skin crawl. The way the handwriting slanted near the end, like the writer had rushed. We set up camp 30 yards downslope, in a flat clearing tucked among the trees. The ground was soft with needles. We built a small fire ring, pitched tents, and started cooking. As night fell, the air grew sharp and cold. We sat around the fire, passing a flask and telling stories. Above us, the tower stood silhouetted against the moonlit sky, its shape looming like a second thought. We joked about staying the night inside it, but no one actually offered to. Around midnight, as embers died down, we heard something. A soft, rhythmic thumping coming from above, like footsteps. We all froze. Jake laughed. Relax? Probably raccoons or something. At that height? Jenna asked. Tyler stood, staring toward the dark tower. Let's just go to bed. Long hike tomorrow. I zipped into my tent but kept listening. The sound stopped. Then came something stranger. A faint metallic screech, like nails dragged across steel. It echoed through the trees, then was gone. Sleep didn't come easy. Morning came gray and cold. Fog clung to the trees like cobwebs. Jake insisted we climb the tower again, just to check it out in daylight. I stayed behind with Jenna. She was quieter than usual, sipping coffee with her eyes fixed on the trees. Did you hear that screeching? She asked. I nodded. Yeah, weird wind, maybe. It wasn't the wind. I didn't know what to say. She looked spooked. Not Jenna spooked, like when she found spiders in her tent. This was deeper, like something she couldn't shake. Jake came back with Molly, both of them excited. They claimed they found a hatch under the floorboards in the tower. It was padlocked. Probably storage or something, Jake said. I want to come back later with my bolt cutters. You brought bolt cutters on a camping trip? Tyler asked. Jake shrugged. Never know when you need 'em. That afternoon, we hiked the ridge trail to a rocky outcrop. The view was spectacular, but I kept checking the tree line. Something felt off, like we were being watched. That night, the wind picked up hard. Tents rattled. At around 2 a.m., I woke to whispering. Not close, far, but distinct. Several voices. I sat up and listened. It was coming from the direction of the tower. I unzipped the tent just enough to peer out. The tower was dark, silent, but then movement. A shadow passed behind the railing. Quick, too quick. I blinked. Another figure, then two. I held my breath. I wanted to call out, but something stopped me. Cold, primal instinct. The shadows vanished. The night went dead quiet. The next morning, I didn't say anything. Who would believe me? I kept replaying it in my head. Were the shadows real? Were they mine? I hadn't been dreaming. I knew that. Jake was already packing his day pack. We're cutting that lock today. Who's in? Molly hesitated. Maybe we shouldn't mess with it. But Jake was already heading up. The padlock snapped off with a loud metallic crack. Jake tossed it aside and grinned like he'd found buried treasure. The hatch creaked as he pulled it open, revealing a narrow ladder descending into darkness. A wave of cold air rushed up, smelling of mold, iron, and something sour, like spoiled meat. Tyler gagged. Jake clicked on his headlamp. Only one way to find out what's down there. Nope, Tyler said immediately. No way. I didn't blame him. Something about the darkness in that hatch felt heavy. But Jake was already halfway down the ladder. Molly followed reluctantly. Against my better judgment, I climbed in last. The room below was smaller than I expected, maybe 12 by 12 feet, lined with old filing cabinets and a workbench covered in dust. Mold crept along the walls. In one corner, a rusted cot sat beneath a broken ceiling pipe. There were dozens of notebooks stacked haphazardly. Jake flipped through one. They kept logs down here too. Weather, radio reports. But look at this. He handed me a page. It wasn't a weather report. It was a list. Names. Some crossed out. Some underlined. And one dated recently, August 3rd, 2021. Just over a year ago. We stared at each other in the musty dark. We brought the notebooks back to camp. Molly wouldn't stop staring at the one with the names. She pointed out something none of us had noticed. Some of the names matched missing persons cases. Not famous ones, but she recognized two from Reddit threads she'd read. One was a solo hiker. The other, a pair of brothers who vanished in 2006. Tyler tried to joke it off. Maybe the ranger who used to work up here kept a scrapbook of local legends. Nobody laughed. That night, the forest felt even heavier. No wind, no insects, just this terrible silence that pressed in on us. Around 3 a.m., I woke up needing to pee. I stepped away from the tent and turned toward the trees. And then I heard it. Footsteps. Fast. Crunching through the underbrush. Moving just beyond the light of my headlamp. I spun around. Nothing. Then a whisper. Too low to make out the words. But it was right beside me. I bolted back into my tent, heart hammering. I wasn't the only one who heard something. The next morning, everyone looked pale. Even Jake. We voted to leave. Even Jake didn't argue. He just said, "One more night, and we hike out at first light." But something had changed in him. He was distant, barely speaking. He kept glancing toward the tower, like something was pulling at him. Jenna and I started packing early. Tyler stayed near the fire all afternoon, staring into the trees like he expected something to step out at any moment. Then came the scream. It echoed down from the tower, sharp, human, terrified. Molly. We ran. She was curled up at the base of the tower stairs, sobbing. "He's gone," she said. "Jake's gone." "What do you mean, gone?" "He went up. I followed him. Then he wasn't there anymore. I swear I turned around for 2 seconds. Then I heard him call my name from under the floor. But he wasn't there." We searched the tower top to bottom. The hatch was open, but the basement was empty. Jake had vanished. We didn't sleep that night. We took turns keeping watch, huddled close around the dying fire. No one wanted to say it, but we all felt it. Jake wasn't lost. He was gone. Taken. Molly sat with her knees pulled to her chest, whispering Jake's name every so often. Jenna clutched the notebook like it was the only thing tethering her to reality. At one point, around 4 a.m., Tyler said, "We should have never come here. This place doesn't want us." Before dawn, we packed everything. Jenna burned the logbook, said it didn't feel right taking it with us. We left the tower behind. But 30 minutes into the hike, we found something that stopped us cold. Another trail marker, not one we passed on the way in. The same triangle tower symbol, but upside down this time. Beneath it, a strip of red cloth fluttered in the breeze. Molly stepped closer. That's Jake's bandana." We weren't alone. We debated turning back, but back to what? The tower had already taken Jake. The forest didn't feel like it would let us go, either. Still, moving forward seemed like the only option. The trail felt unfamiliar. Trees that looked the same. Bends in the path we didn't remember. At some point, Tyler stopped and said, "We're walking in circles." Jenna checked her GPS. No signal. Her compass spun lazily, unable to find north. "We need to stay calm," I said. "We follow the slope down. Rivers run to roads. Roads run to people." But Molly wouldn't move. She just kept staring into the trees. "There's someone in there," she whispered. I turned and saw it too. A figure, pale, still, just between two trees. No face, just a dark shape. And when I blinked, it was gone. We didn't run. We didn't scream. We just walked, faster, not talking, until our legs burned. By late afternoon, we stumbled into a clearing we hadn't seen before. In the middle stood a second tower. But this one was newer, clean, steel supports, solar panels on the roof. At first, we thought it was salvation. We ran toward it. The door at the base was unlocked. Inside were radios, maps, canned food. It looked operational, except it was coated in dust. No footprints. No signs of use. Jenna powered on the radio. Static. Then a voice. "Repeat. Tower 9 status. Do you read?" Her eyes widened. Yes, this is Tower." She paused. "Tower 10? I don't know. We're stranded. One of our friends disappeared." The voice returned. "Remain in place. Do not leave the structure. Avoid Tower 9. Help is en route." We stared at each other. Avoid Tower 9. The one we'd camped under. The one that took Jake. We decided to stay the night in the new tower. It felt safer, solid metal walls, working locks. But none of us could rest. Around 11 p.m., the radio crackled again. A new voice. Harsher. Less human. "Tower 9 is open. Return. He's waiting." Molly backed away. No. No. The radio went silent. We killed the power, blocked the doors with furniture, and kept a knife nearby. Jenna slept in fits. Tyler kept pacing. Just past midnight, someone knocked on the door. 3 times. Polite, calm, rhythmic. We didn't move. We didn't breathe. Then came the voice. Jake. Guys? It's me. Let me in. But the voice was wrong. Flat. Like someone imitating Jake. The cadence wasn't his. We stayed quiet. The knocking continued for an hour. Then silence. At dawn, we left the tower. We didn't wait for help. We didn't trust the voice. We just ran. 3 miles in, we saw the road. Real pavement. We burst from the tree line like animals escaping a trap. Tyler dropped to his knees and screamed. A truck came around the bend, a ranger vehicle. We waved it down. The ranger stepped out, confused. You guys from the tower? Yes, I said. We've been lost. One of us, Jake, he disappeared. The ranger's face paled. Tower 9's been condemned for 20 years. No one's supposed to go near it. I nodded. We know. But we did. He looked at us for a long moment. Then said quietly, You're not the first. We sat in the ranger's truck, wrapped in emergency blankets. Molly hadn't said a word since the tower. Tyler stared blankly at the dashboard. Jenna clutched a thermos with shaking hands. I asked the ranger what he meant. You're not the first. He hesitated, then said, 2 years ago, a solo backpacker triggered a GPS distress beacon near Tower 9. When search and rescue got there, the tower was intact, but the hiker was gone. We found his gear, his journal, even his shoes, but no body. It was like he vanished mid-step. He paused. Before that, there were 3 college kids. One of them made it out, barely. Said the tower had changed, that it called to them. No one believes that kind of thing, he added. So they shut it down, removed it from maps, burned records, told the Forestry Service to forget it. He glanced at us. But it's still there, isn't it? I nodded. And it wasn't just there, it was waiting. We gave our statements. Emergency services arrived, asked a million questions. Where was Jake last seen? What direction did we hike from? Had we eaten any local plants? Taken anything from the site? They didn't write down the logbooks, the voices, or the second tower. No one mentioned the radio call that told us to avoid Tower 9. Later, while we waited at a local hospital for observation, Jenna showed me something. A photo she'd snapped on her phone when we first saw the tower. It was different, she whispered. She was right. The original photo showed the tower had only 2 support beams. But when we left, it had 4. We compared timestamps. It had changed between days. That night, she deleted the photo. Said it didn't feel safe to keep it. Something about this place wasn't just strange. It was adaptive. Aware. Weeks passed. Jake's disappearance was listed as a probable misadventure. Fell. Lost. Eaten by wildlife. No one came looking beyond the first 2 days. Online, I searched for references to Tower 9. Nothing. Then one night, I found a dead forum thread from 2009. A single post. If you find the watchtower on Ridge 8, don't climb it. Don't open the hatch. If you hear voices after dark, run the opposite direction. It doesn't let go. Below that, no replies. User account deactivated. I emailed the admin. No response. I tried going back to normal work, friends, the occasional hike. But sometimes, I'd find my compass spinning for no reason. Or hear the faint sound of boots on wood behind me when I knew I was alone. Jenna moved across the country. Molly deleted all her social media. None of us ever talked about going back. One night, about 3 months after we got out, I got a letter. No return address. Inside, a photograph. Jake, standing at the top of the tower, staring straight into the lens. But his eyes, they weren't right. Glazed, distant, empty. And in the background, barely visible in the window's reflection, another face, pale, wrong, half-formed. No note, no explanation. I burned the photo that night, tossed the ashes into a river 2 towns over. But sometimes I wake up at 3 a.m. and hear knocking. 3 taps. Polite, calm, rhythmic. I don't answer. I never will. I started seeing the symbol again. Spray painted on a dumpster behind a gas station. Carved into the bark of a tree in a park 2 towns over. The same stylized tower inside a triangle. Always upside down. Once I asked a park ranger about it. He paled. "You're not the first to ask," he said. "But I don't talk about that place." I didn't press. I stopped hiking, stopped camping. But one day I found a note on my windshield. 3 words, handwritten in tight, slanted script. Tower 9 opens. Nothing else. The handwriting looked familiar, like Jake's, but I hadn't seen that in months. They say some places are thin, where the veil between our world and something else wears away. Tower 9 wasn't haunted. It wasn't cursed. It was hungry, a structure born out of purpose, observation, safety, now corrupted by isolation. Left alone too long, it changed. It learned. And now it calls. Jake never came back, but pieces of him still do. In photos, in voices, in dreams. And I know it's not over. Because last week, I got a call from an unknown number. A voice I hadn't heard in months said, "Hey, it's Jake. I made it out. Come meet me at the tower." I didn't answer, but I also didn't block the number. Because part of me still wonders, what if he's telling the truth? What if he's still up there, watching, waiting, calling?